Okay.
All right, so hopefully this is recording. All right, here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do here is start with searching for dogs. So I'm going to do a search, and I'm just waiting for the books to come up. Hopefully they'll come up shortly. All right, so we have 309 results here. And the reason why I did this search is I want to show you what these filters are for here. So you will notice that for ebooks, it says I have 8. So what this does is if I click on this square, it's going to eliminate all the books and just show me the ebooks. So I just see the 8 ebooks. If I want to include the 2 fellow books, I can click here. And then now it'll include the film books with the ebooks. You can also do it by publication dates, fiction or nonfiction. So I just wanted to show you what these do. Okay? So do you understand this part?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now we're going to show you another feature. It's called Share Search. So this allows you to share your search results. So when I click on Share Search, you get this long link. So if I copy this link, and then I open up another tab and paste the link in and press enter, I should get the same search result. And there it is. So if you ever want to share your search results, you can email that link to someone, but be careful because some email programs, like for example, Google will do that, is if there's a space in the link will only work up to the space and the rest of it won't work. So if you do send this link to someone, you want to put in the instructions that if you click on the link and it doesn't work, then highlight and copy the link and paste it into another tab. And then it'll
Okay.
work. All right, so that is that. And now I want to go to another area to continue the rest of the training. So I'm going to go here now. Very important that you log in correctly. So I'm going to go to my site. All right, another thing I want to show you is when you do your searches, when you click the down arrow here, you got 4 options to choose from. Now, if you go to enhanced search, you have even more options to choose from. But still, not all the options are here. But I want to show you something. When I'm not signed in to M5 and I go to enhanced search, you will notice there's a big long box going across here. Now I want to show you what changes once I sign in. Now this is the enhanced search. So now I'm going to sign in. And again, very important to sign in correctly. So now watch, when I click enhanced search when I'm signed in, you have this little box over here that says mark. That wasn't there before. Now let me explain to you what that's for. Before I do that, are you both familiar with the mark format? Do you know what that is?
No.
All right.
No.
So let me explain that first. So if I go here and I type mark format, and then I click on Mark Standards. This is a Mark Standard that all libraries use, and I click on Mark Standards. You get to this screen right here. And let me show you now. So I'm going to click Bibliographic. So I want to show you, here's 841 to 88X. So if I click on that, it shows you that 852, field 852 is the location. Now if I want to see the subfield, I click Full. And so now I know that field 852, subfield A, right there, is location. And this is a standard mark format that a lot of libraries use, and this is what our software is based on. And you start memorizing these over time. Not all of them, I still don't know all of them, but all the ones you use daily, like you're going to know that title is 245A, author is 100A, publisher is 260A, publication date is 260C, I believe. So I just wanted to show you this because I'm going to use this as my example, 852A. All right? So now we're going to go back here. So like I said, you have a bunch of fields here you can use to search for, but not all the fields are here. And one of the fields that is not here is location. So I'm going to search the location field by putting 852 pound A. And what happens is whenever you type a value in this box, it overrides what's selected here. So if I put test here, I'm going to be searching for the word test in field 852A instead of subject. If I take this away, now I'll be searching for the word test in subject. So whenever you fill in this mark box, it overrides this. So this is a way you could do searches to search for values in fields that you cannot select from the drop-down. Okay, you understood that part?
Yeah.
All
Mike,
right.
is that what we did when we were trying to find out how many books I had in a certain field? Remember you were helping me with that?
Yeah, that was in Find and Replace probably when we did that.
Yeah.
Same process. So now, what I want to show you after I showed you that is how to add a record using Record Fetch, which is the easy way of doing it. So when you click Record Fetch, you're searching other libraries for records that you can add. To see what libraries you're searching, you click this Select Library button, and it shows you the sites you're searching. So I'm just going to search the Library of Congress on my system. And usually when you do a search in Record Fetch, you're going to put the ISBN number here and search for it. But just to make it easier for me, I'm just going to search for dogs in the title. So I'm going to search for dogs. So now I have a bunch of books from the Library of Congress. Now I'm going to add this book to my database. So the way to add it to the database is you click the down arrow here where it says Choose Database, and you select Library. And then you click Add Record To. So I'm going to click Add Record To.
Yeah.
And now you can see up here, it says one record added, and now this record is in my database. But you will notice there's a red circle, and it says 0 of 0 available, and that's because there's no holdings yet. There's two portions to a record. You got the bibliographic record, which is this, and then you got the holdings. So we need to add a holding now to this record. So to add a holding, you click on the title. So I'm going to click on the title, and then you go to the next page, and now I'm going to click Add Holding. And now you have to fill in these fields. Now I want you both to get a pen and paper because I'm going to give you some things I need you to write down.
Got it.
Got it.
All right. So I want you to write down that prefix is field 852K. And class number is field 852H.
852H, you said?
Correct. Item part is 852I. And barcode is field 852P, as in Peter. And for the heck of it, I'll tell you what location is. Location is 852A. Let me know when you got all that written.
Okay.
All right. So whenever you fill this in, the proper way to fill this in is for classification number. You either put a Dewey number. Do you know what Dewey numbers are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Or you put FIC if it's a fiction book. So I'm going to pretend it's a fiction book. So that's what goes to the class number. In the item part, you put the first 3 letters of the author's last name. So we'll pretend that the author, first 3 letters is ABC, and then I'll give it a barcode. Now the prefix field, you can use it or not use it, but one example of how it will be used is, for example, if you have adult fiction and young fiction, you could separate them by putting a Y here for young fiction and an A here for adult fiction. All right, or if you want to combine them all together, you just leave that blank. Then you have to select the group you want the item to be in. So I'm just going to choose General Collection. And now I'm going to click Save. Now, after I click Save, you will notice now I don't have a red circle anymore. I have a green circle, and it says 1 of 1 available. The holding, think of it as the physical copy of the book. And the bibliographic record is the record the holding belongs to. Now, let's say you have more than one copy of this book. Well, then what the proper way to do this is you add another holding. So if I click Add Holding, I put FIC again. I put the first 3 letters of the author's last name. I give it a barcode. I click Save. Now you'll see it says 2 of 2 available. Now, if one of these was on loan, it would say 1 of 2 available. So now I have 2 copies of this book. Now sometimes you will have many copies of a book, and an example would be a textbook. Like you might have 20 copies of a textbook, and you don't want to have to click Add Holding 20 times. So the proper way to do it, if you want to add a lot of holdings to a bib, is you can edit any one of the holdings that belongs to the bib. It doesn't matter which one. I'll just pick one. You scroll down to the bottom, and then you click this box here that says Generate Holdings. And if I want to make 20 more holdings, I'll put 20 here. I'm going to start at barcode 1002, and it's going to increment by 1. Now, if I wanted the barcode to start with letters, I could put letters here in the prefix box, and then it'll create barcodes ABC 1002, ABC 1003, etc. But I'm not going to put letters before my barcode. So I'm going to create 20 holdings starting at barcode 1002, increment by 1. And all I have to do now is click Save. And now you will see it added all the rest of those holdings. Much easier. And it filled in these fields for you. You don't have to fill them in. So that's a good way of doing it if you need to add a lot of holdings. So now there's 22 records attached to the bib record. So there's 22 copies of this book. Now, the way I just showed you how to do it, there's a disadvantage to it. One is when you search for the record, you're not going to see what the call number is. The call number usually will show right here. So the only way you can see the call number is you have to click on the title and look at the holding to see the call number. Another disadvantage of the way I just showed you how to do it is when you click Add a Holding, the fields are not filled in. You have to fill them in. Now I'm going to show you another method. So I'm going to do another record fetch. And I'm going to search for dogs again. And this time I'm going to add this book to the database. So again, to add the book, I click the down arrow where it says choose database. I choose library. I click add records to. It says one record's added. So here's the record. Now before, what I showed you is you click on the title and then you click add holding. But I'm going to show you a different way. So this time, instead of me clicking on the title, I'm just going to go here to edit and edit the bib. So I'm going to edit the bib. And now I'm going to scroll down to the 852 section. And this is why I had you write down those letters. Okay? So in 852H, see right now we're in the advanced editor. Whenever you edit an existing record, you will be in the advanced editor. And you can tell you're an advanced editor because you see numbers instead of the names of the fields. So 852H was classification. So I'm going to put FIC. I was the first three letters of the author's last name, the item part. And I'll put ABC. And then I'll give it a barcode. So by filling in these fields, when I click save, a holding will be created automatically at the same time. Because that's all a holding consists of, is the 852 fields. That's all a holding is. So I filled in these fields, and now when I click save, I have a green circle, and it created the holding at the same time. So if I click on the title now, you can see the holding. Now let me show you the advantage of doing it this way. The advantage of doing it this way, instead of the other way I showed you, is when I search for this title, you will notice it's got the call number here. It didn't have that before. Because the call number is in the bib and the holding. By me filling in those fields in the bib and saving the record, it created the holding at the same time. So here's the call number coming from the bib. That's one advantage. The other advantage is when I click here and I go to add holding, the fields are filled in for you. Because it's getting this information from the bib record, whereas before, when these weren't in the bib, so they were blank. So there's two advantages. You see the call number after the search, and then when you go to add a holding, you don't have to fill this in. It'll be filled in automatically because it'll get the information from the bib record.
Do you have to add the barcode there at the bottom?
Yes. Unless we have you set up for automatic barcode generation. You might be set up for that.
Okay.
And then it'll stick a barcode in there. So that is that way. Another thing I want to show you is whenever you add a record.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can I go back to that real quick?
Yeah.
So you said, so if I add it through edit bin, it's going to enter the
Okay. So if you
couple of
add
those categories.
So if you add the record from the record fetch, and you do it the first way I told you how to do it, where you click on the title, and then you click add holding and fill in the fields, then you won't see this information right here.
Okay.
And when you go to add a holding, the information won't be filled in like this. It'll be blank. You have to fill it in.
Okay.
But if you do it my way, where when you add the record from record fetch and you edit the bib, and then you scroll down to the 852 field and fill in these fields and then save it, then it'll create a holding at the same time, and you will have the call number information in both the bib and the holding.
Okay. So that just saves going back and editing it later, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It's much easier. I would suggest you do it this way.
Okay.
Another thing I want to show you is when you add a record from record fetch, if you're not sure what the call number should be, a lot of times the call number information will be in the 082 field. See right here? It's got the call number in there. Now, I don't know if you use Dewey numbers, but a lot of times libraries will use the first three numbers, and then the numbers after the decimal, they'll pick what that is based on where the book is located on that shelf that's called 641. But
Okay.
I just wanted to
So
show you.
if we pull from the Library Congress, will that enter the Dewey System in for us?
No, it'll, well, the
Okay.
number will be here in the 082, but
Okay.
you need to put that in the 852H field down here.
Okay. Sorry. So 082 will have, what
It'll
was it?
have
0.
it'll have the Dewey number. It'll say if it's fiction or if it's not fiction. It'll have a Dewey number in the field.
Okay. Sorry. What was that? 082. What was the
Subfield A.
A?
And then you would take this information. You might want to change the numbers from what's here to a different number after the decimal.
Okay.
And then you just put that information in 852H, which is the classification field. Because remember,
852.
you're going to have
H.
FIC.
Okay.
You're going to have FIC here if it's fiction, or you will have a Dewey number here if it's nonfiction.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, another thing I want to show you is if you edit the holding, you can print the barcode right from here. So if you click print barcode, you get your label template sheet, which is the AV5160, and then you can click on the specific label you want to print to. So if I click on this label, it'll print right here, and then you can print the barcode. And you can do the same thing for spine labels. You click on the spine label, you get your template sheet, click on the specific label, prints to it, you click print, and it'll print to that label.
So,
Now,
do that once again, would you mind?
if you could click either, you could print barcode labels or spine labels. So if I click on the spine label, you get your template sheet, because this is the sheet you're going to use. And then you can click on a specific label, and I'll click on this label here, and that's where it prints to this specific label. Now I can print it to the actual sheet.
Can I edit it on there to center it to the sticker?
No, that's the way it works on when you're printing it from here.
Okay.
Now, sometimes when you try to add a record with Record Fetch, it won't find the item. In that case, you have to add the item manually. So to add an item manually, you have to go up here, click the down arrow, and choose Add Record. And then you get this template. And then you fill in the fields that you want. So I'll put a title. I'll put an author. And then I'll just put down here, so a holding gets created. I'm going to fill in the class number. I'll put a Dewey number this time. I'll put the item part, first three letters of the author's last name, a barcode. I'll choose the group I want the item to belong to. I'll click Save. And there's the book I just created. And one thing I want to show you is when you edit the book, notice it only kept the fields that I filled in. It didn't keep all those extra fields. All right? So another thing I want to show you is when you go here and you go to Add Record, you have different templates. It defaults to the book template, but you've got a CD-ROM template, you've got an ebook template, so you could choose the template for the type of book that you're going to add. But one thing I want to show you here is that when you go to add a record, for example, for the book template, these are the default fields that are there. Now, you might not need all these fields, or you might want extra fields that are not here. So the way to adjust this template is you have to go to Advanced Editor. This is the basic editor. You can tell you're in a basic editor because you see the words. So I'm going to switch to Advanced Editor. Now you're in Advanced Editor because you have the numbers. So let me show you how you can manipulate this here. If I wanted to get rid of this subfield C right here, I just click on the X and the C will disappear. If I want to insert a subfield, I put the mouse over 250, choose Insert Subfield, and I will insert 6. click OK. And now I have 6 there. I inserted that field. If I want to delete a field in all the subfields, I can click on the field and choose delete, and that field will be deleted. If I want to insert a brand new field, I can click insert field. I can select the field. I'll choose 310, and then I'll click OK. Then it shows me the subfields I can add. So I'll add A and B, click OK. And now I have 310 right here, A and B. Now, once you get this template looking exactly the way you want, what you want to do then is you want to switch back to Basic Editor. And then you want to click on Save as Template. And when you click Save as Template, if I click OK right now, it'll override the existing template with the new settings that you have. Or if you want to add a new template, I can call this template A, B, C, D, E, F. Click OK. And now you will notice when I click the down arrow, I have a template called A, B, C, D, E, F that I created. So you can create your own custom templates for your own needs. Do you understand all that?
Yes. Is there a category in that template that identifies where the book came from? Like in our library, it gets donations, and I want to be able to tag each book with where it came from. Is there a way to do that?
Well, do you want that to show up as part of the call number, or you want that not to show up as and just be something in the record for you to see?
Oh, it could show up as a call in the call. That'd be fine.
Right.
Like
So if you're not
donated
using
from Grandparents' Day or something.
So if you're not using the K field for anything, you can always put the word donations in the K field, 852K, which is the prefix.
852K?
Right.
Okay. And what is K usually used for?
The example I gave earlier is if you have fiction books and you want to separate your adult fiction and your young fiction, you could put a Y in there for young or a for adult.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if you
And
want
we
it,
won't need that.
yeah.
Okay.
So you can
And then is that just a manual type in, or is there a way to get a drop down option in that category?
no, you'd have to type it into that field.
Okay.
And then when you show the record, like this is the call number, you would see that value as part of this call number.
Okay. And would it show up above or below the call number?
I think it shows in the order that it's listed. I think it'll show at the top because K is before H in the template.
Okay. Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. So now I want to show what these two buttons are for. You got Reset and Home. Both buttons take you to the same place. The only difference is the Reset will sign you out and the Home button will not. So I'm going to click the Home button, and all it does is it just takes you back to the main page. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing that you should know, which is nice to know. If I go to Add Record, if you're not sure what one of these fields are, what I'll do is I'll just type a bunch of garbage in the title field, and then I'll switch to Advanced Editor, and then I'll look for that garbage, and there it is, and now I know the title is 245A. So sometimes that can be useful in helping you figure out what number value that field is.
I see. Okay.
So now I'm going to cover reading levels. I don't know if you use reading levels, but if you do, you can choose these different reading levels. So for example, if I choose Lexile, you have the slide bar here that lets you choose what range of Lexile items you want to search for. And you can also type in these boxes. So if you're going to do a very tight search, like 450.1 to 450.3, you can do that, because it would be kind of hard to do that with the sliding thing here, because they have to be so close together. And now I can search for books, and I'll only get books with Lexile within this range. So that's that if you do use that. A lot of libraries don't use reading levels. Another thing I want to show you is these bulletin board buttons. All these buttons are links. That's all they are. So if I click on the news button, it takes me to this news site. Or if I click on the web search, it takes me to Google. Now, you could set these up for any link that you want, and you could change the names of these boxes. Or, if you're not going to use any of these, you can either shut all 4 off or leave all 4 on, but you can't shut each one of these buttons off individually. When we get in this setup, I'm going to show you how to modify these buttons. Now, hold on just a second. Okay, I am back. Now, I want to show you visual search. So visual search, if I click on here, it expands. It shows you a bunch of buttons. There's 3 types of buttons in visual search. There is a button called a topic button. And a topic button is like a folder. It's a button with other buttons in it. For example, this chemistry button is a topic button. So if I click it, it's got these buttons within that button. The other type of button you could create is a query button. This space travel is a query button. So if I click it, it's going to look for books with space travel, and I don't have any, so I got no results. The third type of button you could create is called a link button. This is a link button. So if I click it, it's going to bring up this web page. When we get into setup, I'm going to show you how to use these buttons. Now, these boxes, you can change the names of them. This box doesn't have to be called Visual Search. You can change the name of the box. And you can also disable these boxes. You can disable one at a time. If you don't want recommended reading to show, you can disable it and the box won't show. And I'll show you that in setup. So here you got your recommended reading books. And if you click on a book, it takes you right to that book, and you can look it over. And then the other part is the gallery. The gallery is where you can put images in, and if you want to, you can attach links to the images. Like right now, I don't have a link, so if I just click on it, I just get the image. But if I had a link attached to the image, then it would open up whatever web page it's linked to. Now, if you scroll down here, you got your flags, which allows you to change the language. And then here you got contact your librarian. So if you click this, and you put your name, email address, subject, and a message, and click send, this message will be sent to the librarian. And when we get in the setup, I'll show you where that email address is stored that determines where this message is sent. Another option you get, and you only get this when you're signed in, which is going to be very helpful to you, is the Library Assistant. If you click on this Library Assistant, you get this page. And this shows you how to work with records. It shows you how to do inventory. It's got videos you can watch. It shows you the latest version of M5. And if you click it, it'll show you what is new in M5. You also have your documentation. You got your frequently asked questions. If you want to look at the online documentation, you can click on that. So if I click on user guide, it'll open up the user guide in my browser. But if I click the PDF symbol, it'll download the manual to my computer in PDF form. So this Library Assistant can be very useful to you. So if you ever want to know how to do something, see if you can find it in here.
Library. Can we do that again?
Right here is the Library Assistant. So if I
Gotcha.
it'll open up this right here. All right, now I'm going to discuss cataloging tools. So to get the cataloging tools, one more thing I want to show you before I get the cataloging tools is you got this Select Library button right here. So if I click that, by default, it's set to standard, which is your regular library books. But if you want to, you could change that to patrons. And now you can search for patrons. Or if you want to add a patron, you can go here, go to add record. And then you can, let me do that again. Sometimes you got to do it twice. And then you can fill in the first name, last name, all the information for the patron.
Where was that again? Right under the
I clicked right here.
record?
I clicked on select library.
Okay.
And I changed standard to patrons.
Okay.
Now, one thing you should know is when you're adding a patron, usually you can type in these boxes. The only box you can't type in is the password box. So if you ever want to put a password in, you have to go all the way to the right and click the equal sign right there. And then it'll ask you to enter the password twice for that patron.
Okay.
All right, so now we're going to go to cataloging tools, and to do
And
that,
those are patrons who would be checking books out, right? Not.
it could be anybody. It could be, well, usually patrons don't have logins and passwords. Usually your staff members will.
Okay. And how do I set up? Will you get to the staff member setup then too?
It's exactly the same way. The only difference between a patron and a staff member is the group they belong to. So when I go here to add records, I go down here and I choose librarians, for example, if I'm going to add a librarian. They're exactly the same. They got the same last, names, addresses, and all that, but it's the group they belong to which gives them the rights that they have. That when we get in the
Okay.
groups.
And is there somewhere where there's a list of what their different rights are, or do I set that up?
That I'm going to get into when I get in the groups. I'll explain.
Okay,
all that.
great. Thank you. Great.
All right, so now I'm going to go to cataloging tools. And then we're going to go through each one of these functions right here. So first thing I'm going to show you is how to import. Because sometimes when you get books from vendors, they will send you a MARC record to go with those books. So that way you can import them into your system instead of hand entering them in manually or using Record Fetch. You can also import patrons from here. For example, someone might create your patrons in the system with an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can save that information as a tab delimited file or comma delimited, and then you can import the patrons into your system. In my example, I'm going to show you how to import a MARC record with items. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to bibliographic records. And then I'm going to scroll down. And then I'm going to click this blue folder. And I'm going to navigate to where the file is that I want to import. So I'm going to go to where that is on my system. And I'm going to import this file called nursing. All right, so I'm going to double click the file. And now it shows down here. And now I have to click upload to get it up here in the list. So I'm going to click upload. And now I'm ready to import. So I'm going to look for nursing. There it is. I'm going to go across. And I'm going to choose import. And now I'm at step 1 of 3. Step 1, it lists the books that are in the file. So it's got 25 books, and these are the books. Now I'm going to go to step 2. So I'm going to click next. At step 2, what you need to do is look and see if you have an 852 box. Because if you don't have an 852 box and you go to import the records, what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of bibs that are imported with no holdings attached to them, and then you're going to have to go back and add those holdings manually. So by having an 852 box, you know when you import this file that holdings will be created at the same time. And if you want to see what's in the 852 box, you just click on it, and then it shows you the fields. You got your H, which is the classification, I, which is the item part, your prefix, you got your barcode. So by having that, I know that after the import, I will have holdings, and my barcodes will automatically be added during the import because they're in the actual records. And you can also look at other fields if you want. For example, I know 245 is the title. So if I click on 245, I see the title, which is nutrition. And if I click this right arrow, I can scroll through and look at the different titles. You will also notice that the fields are pre-mapped. So this is going to go to field 245A. This is going to go to 245B. So you don't have to worry about mapping the fields. Mark records always have the fields mapped. Now, if you're importing a patron file, which would be a delimited file, then these boxes would be blank. And you would have to tell the system where to map each field. And you do that by clicking the double right arrow and then selecting the field that you want. So I'll choose 210. And then I got to scroll down to 210. And then I choose the subfield. And then it'll map to that field instead of the field that's there now. But you don't have to worry about that when importing MARC records. The fields are already pre-mapped. All right, so that's step 2 of 3. You check and make sure there's an 852. Then you click Next, and now you're at step 3 of 3. The only thing you need to do here is choose the group you want the items to go into. So I'm going to choose General Collection, and now I'm ready to import. I'm going to click Finish. It's starting the import, and now it came up with this split screen. Now you won't get the split screen all the time. The only time you're going to get the split screen is when you're trying to import a duplicate record. An example would be if you are importing textbooks, and let's say you have 20 copies of the textbook in this file. Well, the first textbook will go in fine, but the other 19 are going to give you the split screen because it's already in there now and it's giving you a duplicate. And now you have to decide what to do. The record on the left is the record that is already in your database. The record on the right is the record that is coming from the file. It tells you up here, matching record being imported, and this tells you it's your existing record. And you can compare them side by side, and you got 4 options on what you want to do. You could choose Save Existing, which means it's going to keep the file that's already in your system. Or you could choose Replace Existing, which will override the file that's in there with the file from the file. And then you got Import, which will leave the bib intact that's in the system and add the bib from the file, so you'll have 2 bibs in there that are the same. Or you could choose Do Not Import, which will skip over this and go to the next record. Whenever I get these split screens, I like to just say Save Existing. So it'll keep the existing bib, and it will just add an additional holding to that bib. So if there's already 1 holding in this bib, if I click Save Existing, it'll add another holding, so then you'll have 2 holdings. Where if I chose Replace Existing, it'll still add the holding, but it'll also replace the bib that was there with the one from the file. If I choose Import, it will not add a holding to this existing bib. Import will import the bib in the file, and it'll add the holding to that bib that you're importing. All right, so I'm going to choose Save Existing. It's going to import, and now it found another duplicate. Now, you don't want to have to click these buttons every time it finds a duplicate. So what you can do to get around that is you can click this box. Don't show this window again. And what happens is when you click a button and it starts the import, the system will remember which button you clicked last. And then next time it runs into this scenario, it'll execute that button behind the scenes. All right? So I'm going to click Don't Show This Window again. I'm going to click Save Existing. And now it's importing. It's not going to stop. If it finds any duplicates, it's doing that button behind the scenes. And now it's done. And then it shows you a log of your import. Okay? And that's how you import. Are you all still there with me?
Yeah, I don't have import access. I mean, we don't get those files yet, so I'm good.
Now I'm going to show you how to export. Whenever you export, it always exports and creates a MARC record, a MARC formatted record. So I don't have that many records, so I'm just going to put an asterisk here to bring up all my records. And I'll click search. And what I can do is I can select what records I want to export. So I'll select this one and this one. And then I will click next. And then I have to give it a file name. So I'll choose abcdef.txt. Now notice I put a .txt. You always must include a txt extension. It tells you that right here. Include txt extension. So I'm calling it abcdef text. I'm going to click finish. I just exported those two records to this file. Now if you want to save this file to your computer, you just right click on the file, choose Save Link As, and then navigate to where you want to save it, click Save, and then you'll have this file on your computer, and then you could take that file to a third-party program and import it into that program as long as it supports the MARC format. And that's how you export. This ISSN Fetch, you don't have to worry about this because this existed before record fetch. This is how you used to do a record fetch from the other libraries. And this is much more difficult because using this method, you would have to download it to a MARC file, and then you would have to import that MARC file into the system. Whereas with record fetch, you don't have to do that. You can just add it directly from the record fetch. So we won't cover this part. We're going to skip that, and we're going to go to Find and Replace. Now for this one, I need to take a drink of water because there's a lot to tell you about this. All right, Find and Replace. You can use this to make custom reports, for example. You can search for all items that are currently marked missing, and you can search for all items currently marked deleted. If you ever need to know how to do that, you can call us and we'll tell you. But let's pretend we are searching for all the items that are marked missing. All right? So you search, and then you get your list of items right here. So let's say these are your missing items. Once you get the list, you can sort the list how you want. All you do is click on the column, and it'll sort by that column. Once you get the list sorted the way you want, you just click Print. And then you can get this report printed, which would be a list of all your missing items. So you can create all kinds of different custom searches here to get different results that you want. Another thing I wanted to show you is these buttons over here. Now you will notice when I did a search, I searched for Bibs. So if I click this first button, it shows me the items in the record, and it shows you the marked fields. If I click the second button, it lets you edit the bib record. So I can edit the record right from here. And then if I click the last button, it shows me the holding attached to the bib record. And then I can click this to see the mark layout of the holding, or this button to edit the holding. Now, another thing you can do here is you can delete or purge records. Let me explain to you the difference between delete and purge. The reason why you want to delete a record is maybe the record is marked missing. You can't find it. So when you delete it, it marks it red, but it doesn't remove it from the database. This way, if you find the book later, you can go back and undelete the record. And the purpose of deleting the record is when it's deleted, it won't come up in the search results. So when students do searches, that record won't come up because it's deleted. But if you purge the record, then it's going to remove the record from the database. Now, one thing you have to understand here is since I searched for bibs, if you delete or purge the bib, it will affect all the holdings attached to it. So if there's 5 holdings attached to a bib and I delete it, then the bib and the holdings will be deleted. Or if I purge, the bib and the holdings will be purged. Now you can only purge records that don't have an open transaction. When I mean open transaction, I mean you cannot purge an item that is currently on loan. You can delete it, but you can't purge it. All right, that's searching for bibs. You can also search for holdings. So if I change bibliographic to holdings and do a search, now I have the holdings listed. So this will work in reverse. If I click this, it's going to show you the holding information. And if I click this, it'll allow you to edit the holding. And before, when I click this, it shows you the holding attached to the bib. But because I searched for holdings, now it's going to show you the bib attached to the holding. Now, one thing that's different here is now we're searching for holdings. So let's say this holding is one of 5 attached to a bib. So let's say you have a bibliographic record with 5 holdings attached to it, and then I purge this holding. Well, nothing's going to happen to the bib because the bib still has 4 other holdings attached to it. But let's say this is the only holding attached to that bib. The bib has 1 holding, and this is the only holding. If I purge this holding, then the bib will automatically get marked deleted. It'll turn red. It won't get purged, it'll just get marked deleted. And the reason why it'll get marked deleted is because the bib is now empty. It doesn't have any holdings in it at all. It's an empty bib. So whenever you purge the only bib that belongs to a, whenever you purge the only holding that belongs to a bib, the bib will be marked deleted. All right? Another feature I wanted to show you is the upload barcodes feature. If you click upload barcodes, it always defaults to bib holding. And what this is useful for is if I click here, let's say you have a cart of books that you want to weed from the library. You can then scan in those books, click upload, it'll list them down here, and then I can click select all, and then I can do purge. But it's only going to purge the holdings, not the bib, because you see it's got bib holdings selected. So it's only going to purge the holdings. So after you purge the holdings, you want to check after to see if there's any empty bibs, because some of these holdings you purged could have been the only holding in the bib. So the way to search for the bibs that are empty, that have no holdings, is you have to switch this back to bibliographic, because by doing that, you're going to get this button, search for bibs without holdings. So when you click this button, it's going to bring up all the bibs that are empty except ebooks. It will not include ebooks in the search because ebooks are designed not to have holdings because ebooks are not physical items. So there's no reason to have a holding attached to a bib because you don't loan ebooks. So that's what this button does here. Another option you have, and you only get this when searching for bibs, is you got the merge buttons. Let me explain to you what those are for. So whenever you're adding a book that you have 5 copies of, the proper way to add the book is you create 1 bibliographic record, and then you add 5 holdings to that bib. That's the proper way. The incorrect way is to add 5 separate bibs and add 1 holding to each bib. You don't want to do that. But sometimes librarians will find out that they did do that, and they need to fix it. So let's say you found 5 bibs that have 1 holding attached to each bib, and you need to fix that, and you want to combine all those holdings into 1 bib. So what you would do is you would search for that title, and then you would get the the titles down here. So let's pretend all these titles are the same. And then what you would do is you would select the bibliographic records that you want to move the holdings out of. So I want to move the holdings out of these 3 records. Now you have to click Merge next to the record you want to move the holdings to. So if I click this top Merge button right here, it's going to take the holdings out of this, and this bib and move them into this top bib. And then these bibs will be marked deleted. They'll turn red because they're empty now. There's no holdings in those bibs anymore. But I fixed the problem. I now have combined all the holdings into one single bib, which is the way it should have been entered in the first place. That's what the merge is for. One more thing you can do here in Finder in this area is if I click Next, you got your Find and Replace. This is used if you want to change a value in a whole bunch of records at once. We recommend that you don't do this, that if you do need to make a change to a value in a bunch of records at once, you should call us and we can do that for you. So I won't get too much into this Find and Replace part here. All right, so that covers the Find and Replace. Any questions on Find and Replace?
No.
Now we're going to go to Collections. What Collections is used for is to put a bunch of books into a collection. Like, for example, let's say you're giving the kids an assignment, and you're going to give them an assignment on TV. But you don't want them to use all the books in the library on TV. You want them to use certain books for their search. So what you can do here is you can create a new collection. So I'm going to click New, and I'm going to call it TV. And click Save. So now I have this collection here called TV. Now I need to add books to the collection. So what I have to do is click the pencil here, click Upload, and scan the books in that I want to add to the TV collection, and then click Upload right here, and Save. Now you will notice when I edit the TV collection, I have these books attached to the TV collection. Now what's important is you look at this. Search Bib 960A. The reason why it says that is anytime you add a record to a collection, the name of that collection gets put into the 960A field of both the bib and the holding. And I'll show you a little bit later why that's important to know. So just know that whenever you add an item to a collection, the name of that collection goes into the 960A of the bib and the holding. That's all you need to know about collections right now. I'm going to show you how to use collections in just a second. Now we're going to go to Picture Upload. This is used to upload pictures to patrons. So the way to use this is you will have a bunch of JPEG files. And you want those JPEG files to be the barcode of a patron. So if I have a patron with a barcode of 123, you want that patron's picture to be called 123.jpg. The reason why is because when you're uploading the pictures, the system needs to know how to tell which picture belongs to which patron. And it does that by matching the name of the picture to the barcode of the patron. So what you do is you click the blue folder, you go to where your pictures are, and I'll just choose 3 pictures. I'll hold the Control key, click these 3, click Open. So even though it shows just one name here, it really does have those 3 pictures. So if I click Upload right now, it's going to upload those 3 pictures, and it's going to look and see which picture matches the barcode of which patron, and then it'll know automatically which picture to attach. And that's how you use the Picture Upload feature. Here is Message Management. This allows you to create patron messages or item messages. In my example, I'm going to create a patron message, and I'm going to put, do not loan to this person. And then I'll click add. So now I just create this message. When we get into circulation, I'm going to show you how to attach this message to a patron. And this, I don't know if you got it yet, recently used barcodes. It just shows you which barcodes you recently used. I don't think that's available yet in your version. All right, and that covers cataloging tools. Everything in cataloging tools. Now I'm going to show you setup. So to get into setup, you have to be signed in, and then you scroll down, and you click enter setup right there. And then you sign in, and I'm going to put admin for the login, bulk of space for time for the password. Now, even though the login here can be the same as the login in the regular part of Mandarin, the login here is not related to logging in into Mandarin. They're two different separate logins. So I'm going to click sign in, and now I'm in setup. So server configuration, which is this. You don't have to worry about this. We set this up for you. So now we're going to go to library settings. Here, if you want to, you can click choose file and then upload it, which allows you to change your logo. But you shouldn't have to do that because we usually set your logo up for you as well. And then here you can put the title of your library, the subtitle. You can put your library name here, which is what shows up in the report when you go to print the report. But what's important is this. That is the email address that gets used for the contact librarian. So when someone fills out that contact librarian and sends it, it's going to go to this email address right here. That's where it's going to go. Now we're going to go to options. I'm not going to show you everything here. I'll show you some of the things. So remember I told you you could change the names of the boxes, visual search, recommended reading. Well, if you want to change the name of the visual search box, just type in the name that you want instead into this box, and whatever name you type in this box will show instead of visual search. That's how you do that. If you want to disable the recommended reading, you could turn it off. You could turn off a gallery, the bulletin board, you could turn that off, which gets rid of the 4 buttons. You can also turn off your reading levels, which we usually do for you. Also, when you get your results, we usually set you up to display your results in expanded label. So that's how you're going to, but if you want to change it, you could change that here. Also, when you get your results, they're unsorted by default. The reason why they're unsorted is you get your results faster. But if you want the results to be sorted a certain way, you can set it up here, but it'll take a little bit longer to get your results because it has to sort them before it can display them. And that's some of the things you can do here in options. Style, this is used to change the background of your system. Usually we'll set customers up for blue. Right now I'm set for world, which is a blue background with a globe. That's all style is. Changes your background. Change login password. This is where you could change the login and password to get into setup. Record icons. This is what controls what icon shows up when you do a search. So remember those different templates I showed you, the book template, the CD-ROM template? Well, you pick the template for the type of item you're adding so that when you save it, you get the proper icon for that book when you do a search. So for example, for this icon to show, you have to have in the bibliographic record field 007 position 0 equal to a V and field 007 position 4 equal to a V. Let me show you what I mean by that. So let me switch back to standard. and I'm going to search for a title of a book I have. Now you will notice the icon here is a book icon, but I can change that. I can edit the bib. I can insert field 007, and I can change position 0 to a V. Then I'll get more options, and I could change position 4 to a V. So now I have in the 007 field position 0 equal to a V and position 4 equal to a V. And if I click OK, you will now notice after I save it, I have a different icon. And this icon is this icon here, because now the bib matches these parameters. Now you can add your own icon. You can go down here and you can click Create New Icon, and then you click Choose File, Browse for your icon, add it in, and all you have to worry about is filling in the OPAC box. Just use these up here as examples. That determines what icon shows when the search is done. You do not have to worry about filling in the XPath box. So once you got your new icon, you click Save, and you added a new icon. Z3950 searches. This is what controls what sites are searched when you do a record fetch. So by default, our system comes with the Library of Congress. But you can add other sites to search. And if you're going to add another site, there's 3 things you need to know. You need to know the host, the port, and the database name. Most sites don't require a user or password. So as long as you know these 3 things, then you can go down here, click Create New Search, fill the information in these 3 boxes, and then in the name field, put the name of the library that you're going to be searching. And these values down here, you don't have to worry about. Just leave them as is. So as long as you know the host, the port, and the database name, fill that out, put the name of the library here, click Save. You have just added another library to be searched with Record Fetch. And then here is Visual Search. Remember I told you there's 3 types of buttons you can create here. So let me show you what the buttons actually look like. So this is what a topic button looks like. Just like that. You put your caption and your description. The purpose of the caption is so when you move the mouse over the image, it'll show the name of the button. And then the description will always display the name of the button. That's all it is. You just put a name there because you're just going to put a button within the button. The other type of button is a query button. This is what a query button looks like. So when you click this button, it's going to search subject space travel. And any book that has the subject space travel will come up. And then the other button is the link button. This is what a link button looks like. You've got the link right here that it's going to go to when I click on the button. And here I put the caption and the description. That's a link button. Now since you're here, you will remember I created a collection called TV. So what I can do here is I can click Create New Query button. I can then go to Configure, choose Modify, and then I can go to Choose File. And let's pretend that one of these is a TV. So I'm going to choose that right there. That's a TV. I'm going to upload it. And I'm going to put TV here and TV here. And then remember I told you whenever you add an item to a collection, the name of that collection is in the 960A field of both the bib and the holding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 960 pound A here. And just like before, by putting this value here, it's going to override what's selected in the drop down here. So I'm searching for the value in 960A. And the value I'm searching for is TV. and then I click Save. Now, when I go to Setup, and I go back, I'm going to go back into my site.
Taylor Williams B, F5Y0, brown hair, eyes 3 feet, 50 pounds.
When I expand this, and I click on TV, it's going to bring up the list of the books that are in my TV collection. So this is what's useful about it, is you could tell the kids that when you search for, when you do your research on TVs, I want you to use this button right here, and this will tell you what books you're allowed to use for your research. And all they got to do is click the button, and they'll get that list. All right, you understand that?
Yep.
You're all with me.
I think so. Yep.
You're still awake?
Yep.
All right. So now we're going to go back into setup. All right, so that is the visual search. Bulletin board. These are those 4 buttons going across. So here in the English box, you can change the name of the buttons. All right, here the English box right there. You can change the names of the buttons. And then here you can put the links that you want the button to go to. So for example, that one button I clicked on earlier, which was news, when I click on that button, it's going to go to this website. That's the bulletin board. Record templates. This determines which template comes up as the default template. So you will notice when I clicked add record, it defaulted to the book template. But maybe you created your own custom template and you want that template to come up as the default. You just choose that template and that's it. That template will come up as the default. And then here's recommended reading. This is where you add your recommended reading books. So to add a book, you just click on the ISBN box, put in your ISBN number, click OK, and then the rest of the information in the fields here will get filled in for you automatically. That's how you add a recommended reading. If you want to add gallery images, you go to Gallery, you click Create New Item, you click Choose File, browse for the file, upload it, save it, and then that image will show. If you want to attach a hyperlink to the image, you just put the link in the hyperlink box. So when someone clicks on that image, it'll take them to that link. And that covers setup. And that covers cataloging. So any questions on cataloging before I go to circulation? Hello? Can you still hear me?
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah, we're here.
All right, so no questions on cataloging. So we're going to go to circulation now.
Yeah, I think I just have to play around with it and figure out what I don't know.
That's what they do with the universe.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to show you how to loan a book. You put in the patron's barcode, put in the item barcode, and I just loaned the book. That's simple. If I want to return the book, I can click on the square, click the down arrow and choose return. Or I could do it the way most people would do it. They'll just click return up here and they'll scan the barcode and then it returns. Now, when your screen's clear, it's always looking for the item, for the patron barcode first. So if I try to put an item barcode here, I'm going to get please enter patron. So it's always looking for a patron barcode when you have a clear screen.
Can you type the patron name as opposed to the barcode?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to put the patron. Once the patron's up, now it's looking for either a patron or an item. Because if I want to switch to a different patron, I can do that. Put in a patron P2, and now I got P2. And it's also looking for an item. And you can put the title of the book if you want to, instead of the barcode. So if I put 7, I just loaned the item. And let's see. You can also edit your patron here. You could create a new patron. You can do the same thing for items. You can create a new bib. You can create a new holding record. You can do all that here. Now remember that message I created. Do not loan to this person. I'm going to attach that message. So I'm going to go to select action. I'm going to go to messages. I'm going to click the message button. And I'm not seeing that message. It should show here. I'm not sure why it's not here. But I can add a message here also. I don't have to add it over there. I can type a message here.
Does it make a difference whether item or patron is picked?
Oh, yeah, you're right. There it is. I did that on purpose to see if you would catch it. You did good.
Oh, good. And back to the patron, can we scan their number or does it have to be manually typed?
You can scan it.
Okay.
So this is the message I want to attach. So now I'm going to click the face over here, and it's going to attach it. Now watch what happens. When I enter the patron again, let's try that again. This is live, you see? This is what happens when you do things live. There's the message. I click the face, and now I click back, and hopefully this time it will be added. There it is. So the message pops up. Do not loan to this person. So the librarian will see this, and they'll know they're not supposed to loan to this person. And then you can click OK if you want to go past it and do the loan. If I want to get rid of the message, I can just click Detach All, click OK, and now the message will be no longer attached to that patron. And this is how you renew books. You know what renews are, right? You just bring up the item. Well, first let me loan it again. I guess I attached it to patron too. So now I loaned it. So if I want to renew it, I just click renew and put the item barcode, and now I'm renewing it. What I want to show you is how reserves work. So let's do that.
And I'm sorry, one quick question with the patron. Do we assign the patron number when we create their account?
Yeah, yes, when you add a new patron record, you're going to assign a barcode to them.
Okay, thank you.
Now I'm going to show you how reserves work. So patron 2 has this book out called Amy Makes a Friend. Patron 1 comes in and they want the same book, but they can't have it because it's loaned out. So what you have to do is click reserve and put the item barcode in, and then press enter, and now the item's on reserve. Now you will notice there's no barcode attached to the item yet. The reason for that is because if you have an item with 5 holdings attached to it, and all 5 holdings are on loan, you want the first holding that's returned to be on hold for this person, because this person doesn't care what barcode they get, they just want the book. So it's not going to assign a barcode yet until it knows which holding will be available. That way the person will get the book quicker. So now the person that has the book is going to return it. So I'm going to return the book. And now you will notice it says, upon return of this item, please set it aside for the following patron. So you're going to know to set this book now aside for patron P1. And you will notice that this send email box is checked. So when I click OK, that patron will also get an email letting them know that the book is ready for them to come get it, as long as they have an email address in the 110M of their patron record. So now you will notice that if I go to P1, the book's now on hold, and it's got a barcode assigned to it. So now the patron's going to come in and get the book. So you're going to then take the book from behind the desk, and you're going to loan the book. And now the hold will change into a loan. And that's how the reserve works.
That's good.
Now booking, I don't know if you're going to use it or not, but booking allows you to loan an item that someone's going to use in the library for a certain period of time. So for example, if I want to do a booking on item 11, you get the screen. I'm going to choose hourly, and I'm going to go add, and then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to loan this item from 12. Click OK.
Yeah.
Hold on, something's not working right. So I'm going to loan this item from, let's do 12:30. Something is stopping this from working. Okay, 12:30, and then I'm going to go to, I'll leave it to 4:30. So I'll click OK, OK, and then OK. So now I created a booking from 12:32 to 4:59 p.m. That's how you do a booking. You probably won't remember that, but you will have a video of this to remind you. One thing you ought to know is if you ever want to make sure just the patron is searched and not a book, make sure your screen's clear. Because remember I said once a patron comes up, the system is now searching for a book or a patron. But if you want to make sure it's only searching for a patron, click Clear Display. The reason why is sometimes if you put a name of a patron or a name of a book, sometimes you'll find a patron with the same name. It happens rarely, but it can happen, and then it could bring up a book list. Here you got your status. Status allows you to bring up an item. So the usefulness of status is if you want to see who has a certain book, I can put in the barcode of the item, and then I can look down here and I can see patron P2 has the item currently out. That's one use. The other is after you bring up the item, I can go here and I can look at item history, and I can see who has had the item in the past. And you can also do the same thing for patron history. If I go to P2, for example, and I look at patron history, I can see the items that this person has had out in the past. Are you going to do self-checks? Self-check allows students to check out their own books. So, well, just to show you what it looks like, and because of recording, I want it to be on the recording, I'm going to click it. That's what the self-check looks like. So all they can do is self-checks and self-returns. They can't do anything else, and they're stuck in this window. So you would have to have a computer dedicated to be in this window so they could use it. So now let me go back in. And you also have self-returns if you want to do that. In-house circulation. A lot of libraries don't use this. The purpose of in-house is to keep track of books that are taken off the shelf. There's no patron involved in the transaction. It's just an item. So if I switch to in-house transaction, I put in an item barcode, press enter. That's it. I just did an in-house transaction. And then you would run a report to see the in-house transactions that were done. A lot of libraries don't use that feature. Okay, hold on just a second. All right. Another thing I wanted to show you, which is important, is how to use dates. So you see that this book that's on loan here is due November 20th. You can change that. All you got to do is just click on the date, and this calendar will pop up as long as you don't have a pop-up blocker. If you have a pop-up blocker, you have to allow this to open up. So now if I change this date to the 29th, and click OK, you see that the due date now changed to the 29th. So you could change the due dates. Another thing I wanted to show you is if your internet goes down, you won't be able to use Mandarin. So you have to write down your transactions on a piece of paper. But let's say today the internet comes back up. Now you want to take those transactions on your piece of paper and put them into Mandarin. But when you put them into Mandarin, you want those transactions to look like they were done on the date they were actually done. So the way to do that is you bring up the patron first, and then you click Change Date. And then I'm going to change this date to yesterday.
Oh, yeah. That was good.
And I'm going to click OK. And now if I loan a book, you will see it looks like it was done yesterday. It shows created on the 5th. Now be careful when doing this, because if you bring up another patron, this date will change back to today. And then you have to change date again. All right, so that's how you do that. One more date option is the session due date. Whenever you loan items, the period that the loan is for is based on the group it's in. So if the item belongs to a group that has a 14-day loan period, then when you loan the item, it'll be due 14 days from today. You can override that. So if I click the down arrow here and I choose use session due date, and I change this, let's say, to the 15th. Now, when I loan a book, it's going to be due the 15th. And you can switch to a different patron and the date will still work. If I choose another book, it'll be due the 15th. And it'll keep using this due date until you uncheck this box. Once I uncheck this box, now it's going to pay attention to the loan period of the group instead. All right, so I wanted to show you those 3 date options. Next thing I'm going to show you is library transactions. But before I do that, for training purposes, I want to make a book overdue. Are you okay there?
Yes.
I'm hearing coughing, lots of coughing.
Thank you. I was dying.
All right, so now I'm going to show you library transactions. When you go to library transactions, it shows you all the items that are currently out. These are all open transactions. And you can sort these by clicking on a column. If I want to sort this by the title, I click the item and it sorts by title. If I want to sort by call number, I can do that. Now, what's nice about this area is you can make custom reports here. So for example, let's say a teacher comes to you and the teacher says, I need to know all the books that are out for my class. You can do that. You go to the filter, you choose teacher, you type in the name of the teacher, you click search, and you will get a list of all the books that are currently out for that teacher. And then you can click print. And then you can give the teacher this report. And there's other filters you can do also. You can do a filter by grade, homeroom, patron name, barcode, call number. So there's all kinds of filters there. Another thing you can do here is you can send overdue notices. So if I click the down arrow here and I go to overdue loans all, I get this send notification button. So if I had more than one person showing here, I could click send notification and it'll send overdue notices to all these patrons as long as they have an email address in their 110M field. If I wanted to send an overdue notice to a specific patron, I can just choose the filter here. And I could choose to filter by the person's name or their barcode. So once I click send notification, this is the message that's going to be sent. Now you can add to this message. You can type extra stuff, or you can erase the message and type your own stuff, or you can email me and I can change that message to come up with a different message by default. And then once you click the send notification here, the overdue notice will be sent. You could also send out fine notices too the same way by going here and choosing fines all. But notice you have to interact with the software. You have to click send notification for a notification to be sent. Now I'm going to show you an option that you can have it set up for you if you want it. Let me show you. So if I go to here, let me show you this option. So we could set this up for you here on our end, and it'll point to your data, and it requires no interaction from you. So right now, for example, the way I'm currently set up is it will send a overdue notice to all the students who have a book that's 2 days overdue. Then it'll send another overdue notice to the patrons that have 28 days overdue, and then 56 days overdue. I can also send a notice to people that have a fine that's 2 days past when the fine was created, 20 days past when the fine is created, or 56. If your patrons have expiration dates, it'll let them know the patron's going to expire in 25 days. Let them know again it's going to expire in 21, and again when it's going to expire in 14. And then this will send out notices to patrons, letting them know that they have books that are going to be due in 2 days. So we could set this up for you if you want, and you can email us and tell us the parameters you want us to put for you, if this is something that interests you.
Yeah, we do want to do that, Mike.
All right, so if you're interested in that, you want to email support@mlasolutions.com.
Yep.
That's support@mlasolutions.com. And then give us the parameters and we'll set that up for you.
Okay, thanks.
Now, back to here. Let's get out of this. All right, now I'm going to show you options. So we're going to go to options, and you got your schedule up here. So you click schedule, and by default, it is the due time, is the closing time, and the day the item is due, and make item due on the first open day that follows the close day. And then you click schedule. You got your days you're open, the time you're open, the time you're closed. What I always like to do is set this to date into a future date, because what can happen is when the school comes back from summer break, this to date will be in the past, and then when they try to do a transaction, they're going to get a general schedule failure. You will always get a general schedule failure when the to date is in the past. So if you don't want to be bothered with that error for a while, I would set this for the year 2023, and then you won't get that general schedule failure for quite a while. Here is your holidays and exceptions. This is where you can put your holidays. And then here's your global recall. Now let me explain to you what global recall is. Global recall guarantees that you will have books due back no later than the date that you have here. So for example, mine is set for November 20th. So if I loan a book today that has a week loan, the book will just simply be due a week from today. But if I loan that same book on November the 18th, that book won't be due a week from November the 18th. That book will be due on November 20th, because this date will then act like a brick wall. So anytime you loan a book that's going to try to make the due date past what this date is set for, this is going to force that book to be due on this day instead. So you always set this date for when you need all your books back by before the end of the school year. That's what the global recall is. Here, you got group notifications. You can click that. You could choose a group. You could put a subject, a message, send a notification, and every single person in that group will get that message. So this is good for sending mass messages to a bunch of people in a group. Here you got upload transactions. This is used if you want to create a text file. For example, if I put P1, let me show you. If I put P1, 1, 2, P2, 3, 4, 5, and I click upload, what will happen is items 1 and 2, barcodes, will be loaned to patron P1, and items 3, 4, and 5 will be loaned to patron P2. Or we can set this to return. So if you have return selected in circulation, you go here. All you need to put is just the items that you want to return. And if you click upload, those items will be returned. And let's see, I'll show you some miscellaneous settings. So if I click the circle here, if you click enable sound and you have speakers attached, when you load a book, it'll say loan. You always want to make sure this is checked, because remember I told you if you purge a holding and it's the only holding in that bib and then you have an empty bib, the bib will automatically be deleted because this is checked. It says delete bibliographic when last holding is deleted. You can also click here if you want to print a checkout receipt when you do a transaction. Down here, if you edit this part, right here, if I edit that, and I check this box right here, email transaction receipt, then every time you do a transaction, a receipt will be emailed to that patron. And then over here in the return renew operations, if you click here, you have other types of settings that you can turn on or off. And that completes circulation. Any questions before I go to groups?
How did you get to the notification where it would email about something checked out? I didn't quite follow that.
Yes, I went to library transactions, and then I went
Under circulation?
right. So I'm in circulation, and then
Okay.
I click library transactions right here.
I'm in the wrong spot here. Okay. Okay, circulation. Okay.
And then item transactions. Library transactions. And
Okay.
then you put the mouse over loans and choose overdue loans all. And if you have any overdue loans come up in the list, you should have a send notification button.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go to groups. So here, I'm going to go over first the general collection, which is an item group. You can tell it's an item group. It's got books instead of a face. So I'm going to click the pencil for general collection. Go to circulation options. And you will see here I can set a daily fine amount, a maximum fine amount. I can set a loan period. Right now, if I loan a book from the general collection, it'll loan for 14 days. It'll renew for 14 days. It's got a grace period of 7. Let me explain to you what grace period is. So if I have an overdue book, if I return that overdue within 7 days of it becoming overdue, I will not be charged a fine. But if I return that overdue book on the 8th day and I have $1 a day fine, then I should get a fine equal to, I believe it'll be equal to $8 because it'll be 8 days overdue. And that's how the grace period works. Then you got your reserve period and your hold period. So you would want to make sure that the reserve period is a pretty high number, because otherwise what can happen is if a person is waiting for that book to be returned, in other words, a guy's got a reserve on the book, and let's say the reserve is set for 7 days, and let's say the person that has the book doesn't return that book in 7 days, well, what's going to happen is the person that's waiting for that book to come back, they'll lose their place in line, because after 7 days that reserve will disappear. And now they won't get the book when it's returned. So you want to make sure you put this pretty high up so that it gives the other person enough time to return the book, so this person will have a chance to have the reserve changed to a hold. And then here you can click members. Shows you the items in the group. If you ever want to move the item to a different group, you just click the box next to the item. Click the down arrow, choose a group you want to move it to, and click Move To, and that item will move to that group. Now, this is a patron group, administrators. Administrators have rights to everything. So if I edit the administrators group and go to Circ Blocks, you will notice that they have rights to do all these different things. If I go to Circ Limits, there's no limits. That means that anybody who's in the admin group can have as many books out as they want. If I click Loan Limit and I put 2, then each person would only be able to have 2 books out at a time. If I go to Circ Access, this is everything they can do in circulation. So you might have an assistant and you might want them just to do loans and not do all these other features. In that case, you would uncheck everything and just have loans checked. There's OPAC access, where you can select different things here. For example, I can allow them to change their login and password.
And in the, just to go back, the under the holdings entrance, is that where they could, that's the categories, the holding records is how people would enter information.
Say that question again?
So under circulation access, is the holding records add
No.
and modify? Is that's what I'd want for people helping to enter our inventory?
No. This allows them to do all these features. In circulation, they can add a bib, they can modify a bib, they can delete a bib, they can add a holding, modify a holding, delete a holding, they can add patrons. They can do all that stuff in circulation.
Okay.
And they could do these operations. They could do loans. They could do all these different things. And then cataloging access also has the things you can allow them to do. Same thing in cataloging. They can add, modify, delete, purge, replace bib records. Same thing for holdings. So you would uncheck what you don't want them to be able to do in cataloging.
Okay.
Now, item group override, this is important to understand. Let me explain to you how this works. So in the general collection, I have a 14-day loan period. But let's say, for the people that are administrators, whenever you loan an item to an administrator, you don't want them to have the books for 14 days. You want them to have the books for 7. So what you do is you check this box, and then you click the pencil. You change this to 7. And then you click Apply, OK, Apply, OK. Now, if I loan any item from the general collection to an administrator, they will have the book for 7 days because I have in the item group override this box checked. And then if you go here, you will see it's for 7 days. It's called item group override. You're overriding the settings in this group with the settings here instead. So if I loan an item from the general collection to an administrator, they'll get the book for 7 days. But if I loan the general collection to anybody else, patrons, librarians, or library assistants, they'll get it for 14 days because here it's set for 14. So another useful feature about this is if I go in here and go to item group overrides and set this to 0, now administrators can't have any books from the general collection because I set the loan period to 0. If you try to loan an item from the general collection to an administrator, it'll say this item is not loanable. So that's a good way to, if you want certain books not to be allowed to be checked out to certain groups, that's a way to do that. All right, and that is groups. Do you have any questions on groups before I go to reports?
No.
Well, let me just show you one more thing. This is how you add a new group. So here you would choose if you want to add a patron group or an item group. So I'll add an item group, and I'll click New. And by default, it gives it the name New Item Group 1. Then you would click the pencil, change the name to whatever you want the group to be called, click Apply and OK. Now I have a group called Test, and now I'm ready to click the pencil and go to Circ Periods and set the settings for what I want, and then you can now add books to this group.
Mike, I have a question.
Yes.
When we transfer from Mandarin 3 to 5, will a lot of this be set up for us, specifically as the old one was?
M3 will work the same as it always did. The only difference is M3 is just a different interface, but this M3 and M5 are accessing the same data, and they both have the same features.
Right, so everything will transfer over how we have it currently.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Now we're going to go to reports.
All right, one quick question here. I know on my list of groups, there's numbers with it, like
Right.
administrators, it says 3.
Let me explain to you what
What-
that's for.
Okay,
The-
thank you.
Whenever you add a group, these numbers get assigned by the software. You don't assign these numbers. So an example of how you would use these numbers is this. You see how general collection is all zeros and a 1?
Yes.
I would copy that number. Then I would go to catalog. I would go to cataloging tools. Go to find and replace. And then I know that that number is in the 991 pound A field. That is the field that contains the group information. And now if I paste that number in here and click search, oh, I got to make sure I'm set for holdings. Because remember, holdings belong to groups. Bibs do not. Only holdings belong to groups. So now I paste that number in, I click search, and I get a list of all the items that are in that group. That's what that number was handy for.
Okay. So the numbers associated with patron or administrators.
Right, the numbers associated with the group. Whenever you add a group, this number gets added to that group by the system. So if you ever wanted to do a search for all the items in a certain group, you got to know what the number is. You copy that number and you do what I just did and find and replace.
Okay.
All right, are we ready for reports?
Yes.
All right.
Excited about reports.
So now I'm going to show you how to run a report. I'm going to click labels, and I'm going to run sequence of barcodes. And for the first barcode number, I'm going to put 100. Click OK. And then I'm going to enter how many barcodes I want. I want 20. And I'm going to click OK. And then you get to this screen. Let me explain to you what this is for. So if I click Save to My Reports and click Submit Report, what will happen is it won't save the results to my reports. It'll save the parameters. And what I mean by parameters, you will notice when I ran this report, it asked me which barcode I want to start at and how many I want. So if I save this report to My Reports and next time I go to My Reports right here and run it, it will not ask me which barcode I want to start at and how many I want, because that parameter will already be built into the report and the report will already know what to do. So for example, if you're running a report and you're always telling the report to sort a certain way and you're getting sick of always telling it to sort by that, you can run the report, tell it how to sort, click Save to My Reports, submit it, and then it'll be saved to My Reports. So in the future, if you want to run that report again, you go to My Reports, you see the report in the list, you run it, and you won't have to tell it how to sort because that parameter will already be built into the report. Now the only difference between My Reports and Common Reports is in My Reports, only you could see the reports, no one else. But if you put it in Common Reports, then anybody that clicks Common Reports will see those reports. So if you feel you're going to run a report that's going to have a parameter that is going to be popular among other people, you would want to put it in the Common Reports. Another thing you can also do is put your email address in here. If you put your email address in there and you click Submit Report, you will get an email with a link. And when you click on that link, it'll open up the report results. But I'm not going to do any of these. I'm going to leave them all unchecked, and I'm just going to submit the report. So I'm going to click Submit Report. And what happens is the report will now go down into the queue. And you have to wait for the report to move from the queue to results to be able to see the report results. So let's pretend it moved. So once it moved, you just click on the report. And you should get the results. So I'm not sure why I'm not getting anything. Let's click this one. Well, we'll use this one. So as you can see, I got the report results for this report. So that's how you do reports here. But there's another type of report, which is the new M5 reports. And you need to let me know if you don't have it. So if you have the new M5 reports, the way it works is, let me show you. All right, so I'm going to sign in. And again, very important you sign it correctly. So if you go to reports, if you have the new M5 module, you will see this right here. And what you do is you click on that. And once you click on that, you're going to get this right here. And what you have to do is put your customer number in both boxes. So you need to know what your customer number is. So you put the customer number in with the letters being capitalized. For me, I'm just going to put Mike. That's going to be my login. And then you click login. And then you will see this. This is what the report looks like. So if I want to run a report, for example, I'll run a barcode report. I'll click the plus sign here. I'll run barcode label items for item group. I'll click that. I'll type in the group. Here I put the position I want to start printing. Because remember, you have labels. And the label in the upper left corner of the sheet is position 1. Because sometimes you might use the first 5 labels on a sheet, and then you want to start on the 6th label. So you could tell it here, position 6 if you want to.
Oh, that's nice.
But I'm going to start at position 1, and now I'm going to click Run. And there's the results. Notice the results came up right away. You didn't have to wait for it to move from the queue. And then I wanted to show you something else. You will notice, let's say you added 20 items to your database today. Now you wanted to print the barcodes for those items. You can run the report for date range. And then just put today's date twice. Just put the start position and run it, and you get all the barcodes for the items you added today. One report I wanted to show you back here in the other area is this one. Easy Label. So if you click on Easy Label, you enter in your barcodes. So if you want to print the barcode labels, you click the barcode tab. You get your sheet of paper. You click the label you want to start printing at, and it prints. And you can print that. And you can do the same thing for spine labels. So if I click the spine tab, I will now get spine labels instead. And you can print all those. But in my opinion, if you're going to add a bunch of items today, 20 items, instead of you going here and entering in 20 barcodes and printing here to get those 20 barcodes printed, it'd be easier probably to go here and run for the date range where you only have to enter today's date twice and run the report, and you'll get the same thing. So if you go into reports and you don't have this right here, this selection, I need you to email me and let me know so we can turn that on. Let me give you my email address. It's Michael D, MICHAELD at MLAsolutions.com. So if you go to reports and you don't see this, let me know.
Thanks.
All right. Any questions or reports before we go to inventory?
Please go back, and I want to look at the overdue letter and list.
Okay. We go back here and access?
Well, I want to look at overdue list.
Oh, here. Okay. So we go to overdue list, and then you can choose how you want to do it.
Like the number 3.
Right. Well, number 3 will print out overdues for everybody. Number 1 will print out overdues only for patrons that have a grade in their record. That's why it's called student overdue list. But if you want it for everybody, then you choose patron overdue list, and then you can choose whatever option you want here. I'll
Number
choose
1.
And then for location, you can usually leave that blank. If you're the only location, leave it blank.
Right.
Click OK. You could choose if you want all or whatever parameter you want here. I'll choose all. You choose how you want it sorted.
By patron.
Number 4.
And then you're ready to submit it.
Okay.
And that's basically that. So I'm going to delete that. All right, any other questions before I go to inventory?
Nope. We're ready.
All right, this is the last part. So let's go here. Let me get rid of that. All right, first I want to show you what library statistics does. So if I click on library statistics, this is what you will see. So look at that. It's just useful information they'll give you. All right, so I just wanted you to see that. Now, to do an inventory, what you do is you click Do Inventory. And then you get to this screen right here. Usually you don't have to do anything on this screen. You can just click Next. If you don't want items to show up in the Out of Sequence tab, you can uncheck this Check Call Number sequence. And if you don't want inventory to, or by default, it's set to ignore the item part, which is the 852I of the holding. Most of the time, you would want it to ignore the first 3 letters of the author. I don't think you need that, because that doesn't determine where it's located in the library. It's the classification field that determines where it is. So here, you usually just look at it and you click Next. Here is where you have to upload the barcodes. Are you both familiar with Notepad?
No.
I'm not at all. No.
So to open Notepad, usually you go down here and you just type Notepad. If it'll let me type. I'm trying to type Notepad. All right, so I open up Notepad. Hopefully it's going to open soon. All right, so here's Notepad. It's just a blank window. So what you do is you scan your barcodes in, and usually I'll create a Notepad file for each section of your library. So for example, for the hundreds, I'll create a Notepad, the 200s, I create one, the 300s, and then for the fiction, I create one. So once you have the barcodes in your Notepad file, you click File, Save As, and then you will My computer is running slow all of a sudden. You put in the name of the file, navigate to where you want to save it, and save the notepad file. And then, once you get your notepad files created, you need to upload them. So you go to Upload Barcodes from File, and then you click Choose File. You navigate to where your file is. And I'll open up this one. And then you click OK. So now you will notice I just uploaded a file. Starts at this barcode, ends at this barcode, and then it has this many barcodes in the file. All right, that's how you add them, and you can add a bunch of them. I'm not going to leave it there. I'm going to remove it. I just wanted to show you that. All right, once you have your barcodes uploaded, you click Next to go to the next step. If you're doing a full inventory, all you have to do is just click Run Inventory at this step. But if you're doing a partial inventory, then you need to click this button, Create New Call Number Range. So remember, the classification is the 852H of the holding, and the prefix is 852K of the holding. So as an example, if I wanted to do an inventory just on the fiction books, I would put FIC to FID. Now you're probably asking, why didn't I put FIC to FIC? The reason why, the first box is equal to or greater than, the second box is less than. So I'm saying if equal to or greater than FIC, but less than FID.
Yeah, that way.
All right, so that means I'm just doing FIC. If I was doing Dewey numbers and I wanted just the 800s, I'll do 800 to 900. So that's equal to or greater than 800, less than 900. So the way I have it right now, if I do inventory, it's only going to pay attention to those books that start with 800 in the 852H field. It doesn't care if there's an 852K because I don't have it checked. It doesn't care. But if I check this box, the prefix box, now it's going to pay attention only to items that have an 800 in 852H and also have an 852K field. It doesn't care what the value of the K field is. It just has to have an 852K field. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. I think I just gave you wrong information. Let's repeat that. If this is unchecked, then it doesn't care if there's a K or not. It doesn't care. If this is checked, but this box is empty next to it, then it's only going to bring up items that don't have an 852K. All right, so bring up all your 800 items that do not have an 852K. But if I fill in a value in here, now it's only going to pay attention to items that have an AAA in 852K. All right? So the way it is right now, it's going to bring up it's going to look at all the books that have 800 in the 852H field that have AAA and 852K. If I take that away, now it's going to look at all the records that have 800 in the 852H field but don't have an 852K. And then if I uncheck that, now it's going to pay attention to all the items that have 800 and 852H, and it does not care if there's a K or if there's not a K. All right, so now I'm not going to do inventory with a partial. I'm going to do a full inventory, okay? So I'm not going to fill that in. So I'm going to click Run Inventory, and now it's done. It gave me the summary. Now when you do inventory, it's going to take you longer because you have more records. So now let me explain to you what each of these tabs are. Now you'll notice most of them are grayed out, and that's because no information went into those tabs. But the missing is not grayed out, so that has information. So let me explain to you what newly found is. Newly found means those are items that were marked missing that you have recently found. In other words, you took a book that's marked missing, you scanned it into inventory, and inventory said to itself, because it's very smart, it said to itself, this item is marked missing. Why is this person scanning this item in if it's marked missing? Ah, they must have found it. Because if they didn't find it, they wouldn't have been able to scan it in. So it's going to show up in the newly found so that you know that it's been found. And then there's a box within this tab that you can click on to unmark them as missing because they're no longer missing. All right, that's what that box is for. Missing. Here, these are items that are not on loan that you did not scan into inventory. So they're not on loan that you did not scan into inventory. So they're missing because you didn't scan them in. Now there's two colors that can show here. It could be red or black. Red means those are items that are coming up as missing, but they're not marked missing yet. If it's black, that means they're already marked missing and they're still missing. So what you need to do with the items that are red is you need to go look for them on your shelf. If you find one of these items, you need to go back to that notepad file for the section that you found the book in, and you need to put that barcode in the notepad file and save the notepad file and go back to inventory and re-upload all your notepad files again. So next time when you do inventory, that item won't be coming up as in the missing tab because it's now in that file. Once you've determined that these items that are red are really missing, then you can click the mark items as missing, and then these will turn black and they'll be marked missing. The invalid barcode tab, those are barcodes that you scan into inventory that don't exist in your database. Either someone forgot to put the barcode in, or maybe someone entered the barcode incorrectly, or maybe the bar that you scanned did not scan correctly. For whatever reason, the barcode number that you put into inventory does not match an item in your system, so it's invalid. Misplaced, these are items that you scanned out of shelf list order. It's just letting you know the books were not scanned in the proper order on the shelf. Loan shelved. Any items that show in loan shelved need to be returned. Because what that is let's say an item is currently on loan in the system. But even though it's on loan, you scanned it into inventory. And inventory, being smart, says, how is it this person can scan this item into inventory when it's not in the library? It's supposed to be on loan. But you did. You scanned it into inventory. So inventory is warning you by putting them in the loan shelf that you need to return these items. Maybe a book got returned, the librarian got distracted, put the item on the shelf, and forgot to return it in the system software. So any items that show a loan shelf, you need to return. No barcode. These are items that list that don't have a barcode. Duplicate barcode. Anytime you get items in the duplicate barcode box, you need to call us because that's a problem. Because barcodes are supposed to be unique. No two items should have the same barcode. So if you get duplicate barcodes here, you need to call us. Out of range. You will only get barcodes in out of range if you're doing a partial inventory. For example, if you're scanning, if you set the partial inventory to look for 800 Dewey numbers, and you scan a barcode that's got a 900 Dewey number, that item with the 900 will show in the outer range because it's out of the range that you set up. So you must have scanned the book on the 800 shelf that doesn't belong there, and you need to put that book on the shelf it does belong. Now, if you're doing a full inventory, you should never get it out of range because there's nothing to be out of range of. You never specified a range. You're doing a full inventory. So the only time you get information in out of range is when you're doing a partial inventory. And that is inventory. Any questions on inventory? Hello?
Yeah, yeah,
Any,
no question,
any questions on inventory?
no.
All right, well, that completes the training. Unless you have questions you want to ask me or if you want me to go over something again, now's the time.
I do have a couple questions I would like to ask you. One of them being, is there any way that we can get a scanner that is like Wi-Fi so you can do inventory as opposed to bringing the books up to the desk?
Yes, we offer those scanners. So you can
You
call and,
do like
yeah,
scanners,
you
okay.
can call and ask for Mario, and he could
Oh,
send you a scanner that's portable that scans the barcodes into the scanner, and then you can upload them into the computer.
marvelous, okay. I think that's all I had.
Oh, okay, because you used the word couple.
Well, okay, here's number two. I was gonna let you off the hook, but
Uh,
when can we do our conversion? What's good? Are you going to be the one doing the conversion,
no, Alex, I think, is in charge of that.
Alex? Okay. All right. So do I call Mario again for that? Or should I call Alex directly?
You could call Mario, and he could set it up with Alex, or you could call Alex directly.
I think I'll call Alex directly.
But for the scanner, you should call Mario.
I will. Okay, that is the end of my question. And
All
thank
right.
you for your patience, by the way.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions before I end the session?
I have questions, but they're very basic, so Karen and her group might not. Can you walk me through the setting up patrons and the groups? Because we're brand new, we haven't automated anything, so I still feel a little lost on entering patrons.
All right. So,
Okay, I'm signing off, Mario. I mean,
Mike.
I'm sorry.
All right. That's fine.
Thank you.
All right. So, to add a patron, all I do is you can either add them in circulation or you can add them in cataloging. If you add them in cataloging, you change standard to patrons,
Okay.
and then you go here and you click add record.
Okay, wait, so I go to, sorry, I just want to make sure I got through that. Okay, so I'm going to the select library.
Right. I would do it in circulation. It's less complicated.
Okay, so I just go to circulation.
So you show circulation. Circulation, you go there.
Yeah, because we got to enter everything, and I need to figure out how to enter my people who are going to help me enter all the books.
So all I do is you go to circulation, you go to
Okay.
select action, and just click create new patron.
Okay, so circulation, add new patron.
So you go to circulation, select action, create new patron record.
Okay, sorry, I'm just writing as fast as I can. Okay, and then create new patron. Okay.
You click on it, brings you up to template, you fill in the fields. Here is where you choose the group you want them to belong to. You just click the down arrow. And if the group
Okay,
is
and
already created, you can select that group. And
Okay,
then,
so
yeah,
so that would include any categories that are already entered at this point?
well, categories would be items, groups.
Okay.
This is just patron groups.
Okay.
So you're just going to choose the group that you want if the group's already created, and then that person will be added to that patron group.
Okay.
Now remember, if it's a patron, you don't need to give them a login and password. But if it is a staff member, then you would want to put a login for them in the login name, and then you want to go all the way over to the right on password and click the equal sign, and then put their password in twice and click OK, and then save, so that person will have a login and password.
Okay. I think I've got that part now. Okay, thank you.
Now, one thing that's important.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that's important I forgot to say before, so that other person that left won't get this, but patrons can look at their own transactions. So if a patron wants to look at their transactions, all they have to do is click sign in, put their barcode number, leave the password blank, click sign in, and then if they go to my account and scroll down, well, once you know it, I don't have any transactions for that patron. Hold on, let me make a quick transaction. Let me go in and just do a quick transaction. I'll just override that. All right, so if I sign out and click sign in and put my barcode, leave password blank, and go to my account, I can scroll down and I can see which books I currently have out.
Okay.
So that could be useful for the students.
Yeah, and for parents, is there any way to set a student patron account up so that parents get notification of it, or they could just enter their students?
Well, no, they can just put their student barcode in and look and see what books they have out.
Okay.
But if you ever want to send overdue notices to both the student and the patron, you can put the patron's email address in 110M, and then put the parent's email address in 111M.
You said 110.
110M,
M is in Michael. Okay.
right, and also in 111M. But be careful, because only M5 recognizes the other email addresses besides 110. So if you're going to use that feature I showed you earlier that we set up for you here, with all those parameters, that only uses the email address in 110M. It can't use 111M or 112M.
Okay.
So just remember that. So you have to decide who's more important to send that overdue notice to. Is it the student or the teacher? Student or the guardian. If it's the guardian, then I would put the guardian's email address in 110M of the patron record instead of the student's email address.
Okay. And are you able to put more than one email in there or just one?
If you want to put more than one email, then you have to put the next email on 111M.
Okay.
But remember, if you do that, that other utility, if we set it up for you, won't send it to that other email address at 111M. It will only send it to the 110M.
110 is the only one. Okay. And then is there a way to put more than one parent email in, or is it just those two?
You can use 111M, 112M. You could do it 112 as well. So you could put one parent in 111, another parent in 112.
Okay. Okay, and then how do I set the groups up? How do I set the features on the groups?
You just go to groups. So let me sign out and let me sign back in.
Sorry, we're at the way beginning stages of this.
So you just go to groups, edit the page, edit first of all for the general collection, the item group, you just click the pencil, go to circulation periods, and here you can set the mode period, renew
Wait,
period.
I'm sorry, can you go back and do that again?
All right.
How did you get in there? Groups?
So I go to general collection, click the pencil, right here,
Collection. Okay.
and then I click circulation periods,
Okay.
and here are the settings. These are for books.
Okay.
Now for patrons, I'll pick administrators. You do the same thing, click the pencil. And then you got all kinds of different settings here. You got your circ blocks. In other words, these are for when messages come up, if they're allowed to bypass those messages or not.
Okay.
Circulation limits. This determines how many items each person can have out at a time. Circulation access. This is what they're allowed to do in circulation.
Okay.
OPAC access, usually you don't have to worry too much about. If you want students to be able to put books on hold from home, you can turn on holds and reserves here, and you can turn on renewals, and then students can look at those transactions I showed you earlier that they could see, and they can choose to renew them. Or
Okay.
if they want to put a book on hold, they can search for a book, click on the title, and then on the next screen, they can put a check mark by the holding, and they can choose reserve, and it'll put that book on hold for them, and then you will get an email sent to you letting you know that they just placed a hold, so you will go to the shelf and take that book off the shelf and hold it for them. That's if you want them to be able to do that. You would check holds reserves here, and then here's cataloging access, and this determines what they're allowed to do in cataloging.
Okay. And so which of these are the are these categories preset for librarians and library assistants? Or do I have to
No, I think
manually set them?
you're gonna have to manually set them up the way you want.
Okay, and so which are the categories I need for people to be able to enter the records? Is
If you
it
want
all
them to
of
be
those
able, if you want,
bibliography?
well, if you want them to be able to just add records, you just have add checked.
Okay,
That
and
way,
modify would be
they can't.
editing.
That way they can. Well, if you don't want to modify or change a record, then you uncheck that. It does exactly what it says. Delete,
Okay,
purge. So if you only want them to add, just have add checked only,
okay.
and then the item group
What are
over.
the
Yeah,
authority category or authority records? What does that represent?
that is.
Or is that the person who can make choices on these categories?
No. Um, I. Oh, I remember that. Sometimes you can have two types of records. It's a separate module you buy. It's called authority control. And you create separate records for that. And so if you had authority control, you would have other records in your system called authority records, and you would be able to search for them. And this controls what you could do to those records. But if you don't have authority control, you don't have to worry about this because those records won't exist.
Okay.
And then item group overrides, remember what that is? So if you wanted to have a certain loan period for this specific patron group, you can check this box, and then you can click the pencil and change the loan period so that only these patrons will have that loan period, and they won't be affected by the loan period of the item group.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. I'm just trying to flip back to my screen to see if I can make sense of it then. Okay.
And remember, this if you want this video, I'm recording it right now. Hopefully it'll come out good. If
Okay.
you email me, I can email you a link to watch this whole training over again.
Okay, and then can you show me again how you got to that list of all where the editing was? Was that from?
I went to I went into the patron group administrators, whoever won, and then I went to circ options. So modify would be edit. That would be editing.
I mean, I'm sorry, the part where it lists administrator, librarians, general collection.
Oh, I just went into groups. I just click groups and you get this list.
Oh, okay. I see what I did. I had entered administration, so when I hit groups, it took me to that edit. Okay. I just had to back out of the administration edit to get to
Right.
there. Okay. I think I see it.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else?
I think that's it for now.
All right. Well, you have a good day. And if you want that video, just send me an email.
Okay, great.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Bye-bye.